The turning point came when Michio Kaku, a globally respected theoretical physicist and futurist, stepped onto the stage at a much-anticipated space science symposium held in Geneva. Known for his grand-scale visions of the universe and bold, theoretical perspectives, Kaku had always commanded attention. But this time, there was something different, gravity in his tone, subtle but noticeable sense of urgency that spread quickly through the auditorium. The title of his presentation had already sparked intense curiosity: The Moon, a paradigm shift in understanding. Many attendees expected a retrospective analysis of lunar expeditions or speculative commentary on potential colonization. But what unfolded stunned both the scientific community and the general public. Kaku began by presenting newly gathered data from a recent international collaboration involving several space agencies and advanced imaging satellites. These cutting-edge instruments, deployed in lunar orbit, employed technologies like gravitational lensing and deep penetrating radar, methods never previously applied to the moon with such precision. The results were more than surprising. They fundamentally contradicted accepted models of celestial body formation. One of the first revelations involved the moon's density. The new measurements deviated significantly from established estimates of its mass and internal structure. The instruments detected massive internal voids, some extending hundreds of kilometers beneath the surface. These weren't ordinary geological features like lava tubes or natural hollows. Their symmetrical configuration and consistent spacing indicated a high degree of structural coherence, as if they were intentionally engineered. This suggested the unthinkable. The moon might not be a wholly natural object. Behind Kaku, a series of images displayed clean, geometric patterns buried under the lunar regolith. Some segments emitted pulsed energy signals at regular intervals. In certain areas, there appeared to be reflective materials, possibly metallic alloys, entombed beneath countless layers of dust. The room's mood shifted dramatically. Scientists leaned forward in their seats, some visibly unsettled. Kaku proceeded to share thermal imaging results that revealed heat emissions from these cavernous regions. Heat patterns inconsistent with volcanic activity or residual formation energy. These heat signatures instead mirrored dormant reactor cores, indicating a source of energy still active within the moon. The validity of the data was bolstered by verification from 3 separate space agencies in Europe and Asia. This was no speculative anomaly. Something within the moon was still generating energy that, by all known principles, shouldn't exist. Kaku then addressed gravitational anomalies. While minor inconsistencies in lunar gravity had been recorded since the Apollo missions, they were often dismissed as minor instrument errors or topographical artifacts. However, the new data painted a far more organized picture. Gravitational fluctuations weren't random. They formed a lattice-like grid directly aligned with the locations of the internal voids and geometric formations. This grid, spanning from pole to pole, suggested a calculated distribution of mass. It may have served as a mechanism ancient and now inactive that once allowed the moon to regulate its orbit with uncanny precision. While Kaku stopped short of directly attributing the phenomenon to extraterrestrial engineering, the implications of his presentation were unavoidable. The widely accepted theory that the moon resulted from a collision with a Mars-sized object early in Earth's history might not explain all the evidence. Instead, he hinted, the moon could be a partially artificial shell concealing something far older and intentionally placed. These revelations sent shockwaves beyond academia. If the moon wasn't entirely natural, then the timeline of Earth's history would require radical revision. The moon's gravitational influence is foundational. It stabilizes Earth's axial tilt, drives tides, and impacts biological cycles. If the moon's existence was intentional, could it mean life on Earth was influenced or even orchestrated by a greater intelligence? Kaku invited the audience to consider a possibility. What if an advanced civilization had deliberately placed the moon in orbit? Such a feat would demand technological capabilities far beyond our current understanding, possibly corresponding to what he termed a Type 2 or even Type 3 civilization on the Kardashev scale. Such entities wouldn't just observe the cosmos, they would shape it, curate it, and perhaps even seed life across it. Kaku touched on cultural implications, carefully navigating the boundary between science and philosophy. Throughout human history, cultures around the world, from the Sumerians and Egyptians to the Mayans, recounted myths of a sky devoid of the moon, followed by tales of its sudden arrival. For centuries, such stories were regarded as metaphorical, but Kaku proposed a re-evaluation. Perhaps these were not myths, but fragmented memories of actual events. The calm in his voice gave weight to the idea. If the moon was placed deliberately, then humanity's origin story might be intertwined with cosmic engineering. He noted the moon's perfect tidal lock, its symmetrical orbit, and the role it plays in stabilizing Earth's environment. These weren't trivial coincidences. They could have been preconditions for the emergence of complex life. He moved next to the curious detail that the moon appears almost exactly the same size as the sun when viewed from Earth, enabling total solar eclipses, a rare phenomena not mirrored elsewhere in the solar system, previously dismissed as coincidence. This alignment now seemed suspiciously precise. Kaku also pointed out the moon's age, which appears slightly older than Earth in conventional models of paradox. If it formed from Earth's own debris, if it had been inserted into orbit after the Earth had stabilized, the discrepancy would make sense. Perhaps the moon arrived as a tool to guide the emergence of life. Kaku made it clear he wasn't presenting conclusions, only data and a call for open-minded inquiry. He urged the scientific world to break down disciplinary barriers, encouraging a convergence of astrophysics, archaeology, mythology, ontology, and consciousness studies. The questions raised by his presentation extended far beyond the symposium's hall. If the moon wasn't entirely natural, then what purpose did it serve? Was it a stabilizer, a vault, a sentient mechanism? And most importantly, was it still functioning in some capacity? Ancient lunar myths and sky legends took on new weight. Seismic activity, previously dismissed as minor tremors, was revisited with intensified scrutiny. More than Kaku's scientific assertions, it was his humility that resonated. He didn't claim to have unlocked the truth, he had simply opened the door to a different way of understanding. In the subdued press conference that followed, Kaku was asked whether the moon posed any danger. He answered without alarm. There was no evidence of enduring silent technology. Whatever existed within the moon, he said, had been present long before humanity emerged, and it had been observing all along. The global response was immediate. Debates flared across every sector of society. Was the moon the remnant of a colossal spacefaring effort from the distant past? Did it contain dormant machinery, archives, or even computational intelligence? Universities launched new research programs within weeks. The private space industry, previously focused on mining and colonization, suddenly found itself at the edge of an entirely different frontier, one not just spatial, but existential. The possibility that Earth's moon was part of a larger network of similar constructs sparked global speculation. Perhaps other planets, too, hosted such structures, each designed to regulate and nurture life. If so, Earth wasn't unique, but part of a broader cosmological project. Some researchers even explored the feasibility of communication, hypothesizing that the moon could contain dormant AI, or signaling systems that might be reactivated under specific conditions. For the first time, there were no longer ideas relegated to science fiction. Think tanks in cosmology and deep space engineering began seriously discussing the possibility of triggering latent systems through targeted frequencies or energy patterns. Could the moon contain a failsafe designed to respond to intelligent life reaching a certain threshold? No. This shift did not signify a surrender to fantasy, but rather a maturation of scientific curiosity. The moon's apparent artificiality was no longer merely a fringe theory. It was supported by gravitational, thermal, and electromagnetic anomalies, all grounded in empirical data. Public reaction ranged from awe to apprehension, spiritual stirring, while others were unnerved. But one thing was clear: humanity's perspective on the moon and, by extension, on itself had changed. Astroarchaeology, a discipline long dismissed as speculative, now surged to the forefront. Linguists, mythologists, and historians began combing through global folklore, oral traditions, and ancient star maps. They found recurring motifs describing the moon as a visitor, a guardian, or even a guide. Many cultures described celestial beings descending from the moon, imparting knowledge, then vanishing. What was once poetic metaphor now seemed like potentially encoded memory.